she is self-diagnosed. But there are times that I really disagree with her. There are times where her content, the trolley content, I just can't take it anymore. So currently, I think I'm subscribed but not following. Hey there. I was not planning on filming a video today, but since my last video, a lot of you have been commenting that you want me to weigh in on the Trisha Paytas dissociative identity disorder, Anthony Padilla situation. So I decided to go ahead and pop in and weigh in and then, get back to my regular schedule, which I don't have. But I did record a video earlier that may take some time to edit and upload. So in a way, this is just kind of a bonus video. So you may notice that my hair is a little bit darker. I just dyed my hair last night. So in my upcoming video, my hair is going to look lighter, and that's why. Because I previously filmed that one. And I've said this in a few of my videos, this is not a place to come if you are hoping to find reporting on whatever tea is going on. So I'm not reporting on what happened with Trisha. So if anything seems a little confusing or lacking context, I may link some videos down in the description where you can actually get a comprehensive report of what happened. This is a super quick reminder to like and subscribe if that's something you want to do. If that's not something you want to do, I'm sorry for the interruption. I'll shut up and start talking now. But essentially, Trish went on her main channel, I believe, and made a video about her experience having dissociative identity disorder, or what some people know of as multiple personality disorder, or DID. And she talked about the different personalities or people or personas that exist within her. I'm not a medical professional, so if I speak a little incorrectly about this stuff, I apologize. Feel free to correct me, but do not eviscerate me. I am not in any way pretending to be an arbiter of people's diagnoses or what these disorders look like or how they display themselves. But she did go on her channel. She did talk about her experience with this disorder she believes she has. She did refer to a girl who was on Anthony Padilla's channel as seeming crazy, which was a really poor choice of words and rightfully upset a good bit of people. But Trish believes that she identifies with this disorder that was discussed on Anthony Padilla's show. She believes she has it. She also said that she is self-diagnosed. And this angered a good bit of the internet. It was pretty reminiscent of the time that Trish went on her channel and made a whole video claiming to be transgender.
I know I've trolled and stuff in the past, and so I don't want people to think this is a trolling video. I've known I've come out as gay before, I've come out as bisexual before. And that's kind of why I have issues in general with just terms in general and labels in general, like male, female, gay, straight, bi, because I don't know if I would say I'm confused. I would say I'm all of it.
That pissed off a lot of people too. And in fact, I believe that was the moment that I decided to stop following her. I've said this before. I am subscribed to Trisha's channels. I am not following them. I, in many ways, like Trisha, and in many ways irritated and frustrated and offended and pissed off by a lot of the things she says and does. So in a way, I do feel like I tend to take an objective stance when something comes up, because I neither endorse nor denounce Trisha's behaviors in an overarching sense altogether. I can really kind of look at each situation separately and weigh in and give my opinions. I think without being influenced by an overall opinion of her, if that makes sense. So I do think that there are a few factors at play that contribute to why the internet has been so upset with Trisha for making this video. We do know her as an internet troll. She's made several videos where she kind of seems like she may be acting and going into these different personas that she's created for the sake of views or for the sake of confusing people, and just in general, seemingly just to get attention.
I woke up this morning feeling like a chicken nugget. Not just like, but like, not but.
So now for her to make a more seemingly serious video speaking to DID, it is understandable that people would be frustrated, offended, what have you. She has pissed off a lot of people for not only the reasons I've mentioned, but for so many other controversial things she said and done online. So I think as such, she has lost a lot of credibility and lost a lot of support. However, I'm going to express probably an unpopular opinion here. I think when it comes to certain hot button issues, or just issues in general, I think it's totally fair for your opinion of Trisha Paytas to play a part in your opinions about what she has to say on these topics. However, when it comes to mental health, I think we need to be a lot more careful with how we react to these things. Do I think that Trisha should have been more careful with how she approached this? Absolutely. The one issue that I take with Trish and her speaking to these various disorders and identities that are very personal to her, whether it be DID, she's spoken to BPD, she has talked about being transgendered, and of course, she's talked a lot about struggling with addiction issues. I think that Trish is very confused. I don't deny that there is something, if not multiple somethings, going on with her that are valid, that require counseling, treatment, support. But I don't think that she can get the proper treatment and support for these things unless she gets a valid diagnosis from a professional. And that's where Trish is failing not only herself and her viewers, but the YouTube audience as a whole, and specifically the mental health community. A few weeks ago, Trish was on the H3 podcast, and somewhere the topic of autism came up, and she said, "I'm not autistic, I've been vaccinated."
Autism? Oh, there's like spectrum.
It's a spectrum.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that.
Okay. So weird. I don't want to get in trouble for that.
So
I'm vaccinated, so. Right? Isn't that?
Wait, what?
I don't have autism?
Well,
I don't know what's happening.
you're vaccinated against autism.
And then kind of really didn't seem to understand what autism is, what the spectrum is, the role that vaccination either plays or is said to have played in whether or not a person is autistic or comes to be autistic. She just clearly came across as very undereducated on that topic. But she also went on to talk about her gender identity, her sexual orientation, and kind of how she feels like she's had to sort of shut her mouth about how she identifies.
How I consider myself transgender. Well, I don't say it because it offends people. I just did my podcast with Blair White, and she was saying like how like, oh, now in person I genuinely like feel what you're talking about. I still consider myself.
Okay.
And that felt actually a little bit unfair to me. And in that I felt that we have not been entirely fair to Trish. I'll link that podcast below so that you can actually go and listen to everything that she does have to say about her preferences and her identity. But it's very clear that it is very unclear as to how she identifies in terms of gender, in terms of sexual orientation. I'd be curious to hear what other people think about her identity in this regard. But it seems like such a complicated situation that I really hope that she is seeking support and counseling for it, because it's very confusing. And when something like that can be so confusing, it can feel very alienating. And on top of that, the internet is further alienating her because she went online and perhaps misspoke, perhaps is totally misunderstanding her own identity and offended not only an entire population of people, but those who support that population. But does that mean that we should completely write off everything she says she's experiencing and kind of leave her to her own devices? I don't think so. I'm one of the people who kind of wrote her off when that happened, and now seemingly she kind of has to keep her mouth shut about the whole situation. And I don't think that that is fair. We talk so much about stigma around mental health and around the LGBTQ community, and yet somebody comes forward and says that they identify with something, and we write her off because perhaps she's confused, because she's been problematic in the past, because she's misrepresenting people, and for a number of other reasons. However, if we are to be sensitive to these issues and try to reduce stigma, we need to give validity to everyone's experience, whether we like them or not. So again, I understand why people are frustrated with Trish. She seems to talk about very serious issues and makes very serious claims without seeming to really understand what she's talking about. I recognize that. But without being a mental health professional, a normal person like me, who's been watching Trish for a very, very long time, can look at her and recognize that she's been dealing with some sort of identity crisis for a very long time. Now, she has alluded to being diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, but then later has said that she's not been diagnosed with anything.
Do you have a personality disorder? Do you have some kind of diagnosis?
I've never been diagnosed.
And this is where a diagnosis is really important. It is not her place to self-diagnose. That is a very dangerous thing to do. She has expressed that she doesn't feel it is her duty to get an official diagnosis, and that is simply dangerous. She could be self-medicating and self-treating for something that she doesn't have while ignoring what she does have. She is speaking on issues where she may not actually have the personal experience that she thinks she has, and thereby pissing off several communities. However, just as it is not her place to self-diagnose, it is not our place to diagnose for her, nor is it our place to discredit her claims when we don't know her experience personally. Something may reek of bullshit, but when we suspect that something is bullshit, that is pure speculation. I watched a commentary video on this where the person said, in speaking to the whole Trish's transgender issue, that there is no medical test that can prove or disprove that somebody is transgender, but that we know Trish is full of crap. And that, I think, while it may be well-meaning, it is feeding into the stigma around gender identity, sexual orientation, and mental health. We may think that somebody is full of crap. We may not like somebody because they seem to be full of crap. We may not want to listen to anything somebody says because they are seemingly full of crap, and all of that is valid. But we don't know that Trish is full of crap. I don't care what anyone says. We don't know how much of a disconnect there is, if any, between her personal experiences and what she's saying to be true. There could be a huge disconnect, and there could be none whatsoever. We don't know. We can't know that. And that is where I think the rest of us are failing, not only Trish, because I understand a lot of people don't care whether or not they fail Trish. That's valid. I get that. But the mental health community at large, we need to be more mindful of. We need to be more mindful of the stigma that we put around these things. A lot of us are dealing with stuff. Now, I am a huge advocate of diagnosis, treatment, therapy for mental health issues. I think that is so important. But I can guess that a huge number of you watching this video right now probably suspect that you're dealing with something in the realm of mental health, but have not been diagnosed with it. And now, watching this situation, what if you are afraid to even speak on what you think you're experiencing because of how people are treating Trish or anyone else when they say they think they have something? So yes, a diagnosis is so incredibly important, but it is not fair for us to eviscerate someone for potentially being wrong with their own self-diagnosis. We need to still be sensitive to what they are experiencing. I think that we are really missing an opportunity to employ compassion and offer education. So, as I mentioned, Trish has alluded to having borderline personality disorder, but has most recently said that she's never been diagnosed with anything. So, if this is just an example, if what she's experiencing is consistent with BPD, then those who know BPD more personally can come forward and provide some guidance and counseling that could provide clarity to this situation and what Trish may be experiencing. We can guide Trish to go get that diagnosis that is so necessary, which could just create a world of difference, not only in her life and what she's struggling with, but also how we handle these situations with people in general. It is not okay to discredit somebody's mental health journey simply because you don't like that person. And Trisha is completely in the right to say that people completely discredit her because they don't like her, and thus don't give validity to valid situations. Again, that is totally understandable in many situations, but when it comes to mental health, that is not okay. I think it's insanely hypocritical to stand as an advocate for the mental health community, whether you're Anthony Padilla or me or The Rewired Soul or any of these drama channels or anybody else who I may not have mentioned. And I'm not saying that any of those people I just mentioned are doing this. I am just saying I get that Trisha may have struck a nerve with a lot of people, but it is not okay to stand as an advocate for the mental health community and exclude Trish from that community. If there is anything that the mental health community is and should be, it is inclusive. It should disregard our opinion of somebody outside of their mental health. Whether we like somebody or not, we should stand in support of people getting the proper diagnoses and treatment for their mental health issues. So, what is apparent? What do we seem to really actually know about what's going on with Trish? She is definitely mentally unstable. I think that's something that most people agree upon, and that is something that Trish has told us herself. I think most of us agree that she needs a diagnosis and help for whatever it is that she's dealing with. And it is apparent that we need to encourage that. We need to encourage somebody to take the proper steps. And in doing so, we can gently correct someone where they have been wrong, and then provide our opinions on how they should go about getting that help. But it should definitely come from a place of good, and we really need to drop our anger, our fiery hot rage over something that Trish maybe simply misunderstood, and guide her in the right direction. And I'm sure that there are going to be a lot of people that say that they are positive Trish had ulterior motives, that she knows what she's talking about and intentionally misspoke. You guys know that I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt, but this isn't even about that. This isn't about whether or not you should give somebody the benefit of the doubt. This isn't about whether or not she knows what she's talking about or not. Because this is a mental health issue, you have to give people the benefit of the doubt. If they mistreat that, then that'll come back to them. However it does, let it be. But it's better for us to give somebody the benefit of the doubt and to be wrong, for us to feel like fools or whatever happens as a result, than for us to not give somebody a chance to completely cast them off and watch them spiral downhill without getting the proper help that they need. So in my opinion, we have not figured out how to separate our anger, frustration, and annoyances towards Trish that are very valid from our commitment to supporting good mental health for everyone. And while I think maybe too optimistically that we are heading in the right direction, I think that we need to check our hypocrisy. So we can't pretend that we are warriors for people with mental health struggles and then, like I said, eviscerate somebody who may be experiencing mental health struggles and perhaps is just misinformed. We need to do better. Trish needs to do better in that it is her responsibility to herself, to her audience, and really to anybody she comes into contact with to get that diagnosis. That is the one thing that I firmly disagree with her on. She needs to get that diagnosis and then the proper treatment. And we need to support that. We don't need to support her in general. We don't need to support her businesses or her behaviors, but it is our moral duty to support proper mental health treatment for everyone. Now, that is my belief, my opinion, what have you. I will say that is something I stand very firmly on. Feel free to disagree with me, but I will say that that is something that I think about a lot. That is something that I feel very strongly about. The details about how we go about supporting that mission, I may be able to see in different lights. But at the end of the day, I do think we need to put our biases about people aside when we are talking about their mental health. We are losing too many people that could have had a shot at getting better. People who are sick are harming too many people because they didn't get better when they could have. Just the world will be a better place if we support mental health in a better way than we have been. It is in everybody's best interest if we support the mental health of everybody, which is also something I'm a bit fired up about because that is a conversation that came out in the comments of my last video about the child that I interacted with. In the comments of my videos about Gabby Hanna, we talked about this child that I essentially ended up babysitting in the comments and guiding and counseling. And I hope this is not exploitative because I haven't told you guys who this child is, but it seems that that child is actually in a pretty bad place in terms of her mental health right now, which somebody brought to my attention a couple of days ago right after I posted. I don't think I'm being clear here. I think I'm trying to be so careful that I'm missing an opportunity to make a point. A few days ago, I posted a video about Gabby Hanna's stance and the responsibility that influencers have to their audiences. I talked about a situation where I dealt with a Gabby stan in my comments, later found that this was a young child I was talking to. I had an exchange with this child where we talked about hateful language that she was using and ended up really changing how this child was interacting in my comments, which was a happy ending. I also mentioned that in this child's online presence, she is emulating a lot of Gabby Hanna's behaviors, which made me concerned about how much influence influencers have over their audiences. And while thinking that this story had a happy ending, I later found out that this child is in a bad place emotionally and is thankfully getting help for that. But it just kind of strengthened that opinion I have that we need to do a better job when managing our own behavior, especially in the public eye, because of who may be watching us, looking up to us, emulating our behaviors. Because mental health is very real, and now it's becoming such an issue for children. And I've had a couple of conversations where people in my comments have told me that it is not on Gabby Hanna or anyone who is not the parent of this child to have to care. And that's so sad. That's so sad to me. Because even if this child's parents are failing her, which I have no reason to believe they are, we don't know how much her parents know about what's going on online. But say hypothetically that this child's parents are completely failing her. The message that those comments give me and the rest of my comment section is that if a child's parents are failing them and nobody else is there to set a good example, then oh well. We shouldn't have to care. I don't know. I know that I'm starting to ramble at this point, and now I'm referencing another video on another topic when I'm talking about Trisha Paytas and her experience with dissociative identity disorder. But I just think that this is a larger conversation about mental health, about how we approach it, and our collective responsibility to one another. And it's a lot. It's a lot for us to take on, but it is necessary for us to take on. If we take on this responsibility for everyone else, then everyone else is taking that responsibility on for us as well, and we are all nurtured. Again, I'm very idealistic, I'm very optimistic, but if somebody isn't, how do we get better? That's my take on this. Like I said, I am very firm on believing that we should look out for one another, but in terms of the details, I am open to discussion and where I could be wrong, or I could perhaps be thinking about this a little differently. So legitimately want to hear what you guys think. So of course, like I always say, I'm going to meet you in the comments. Let me know what you think there. We'll strike up some more conversations, which will probably lead to more videos. But I am looking forward to it and to hearing what you guys have to say. So I'll see you there. To the one person who's watching this video who's not me, thank you so much for stopping by, for watching, for leaving a comment for me so that I can get to know what you think a little bit more. And yeah, I'll see you down there. Bye.